Hello everyone and welcome to PlayStation Access. My name is Rosie and I'm joined today by the brilliant Rob.
Oh, thank you, Rosie. Hello. The brilliant Rob. That will be my official title from now on.
But Rob, you have been checking out Assassin's Creed Shadows, which I'm very excited to hear about.
Yes, I mean, I was very excited to see it. This was the first sort of gameplay reveal we'd seen, and I visited Ubisoft at Summer Game Fest, and they had like a pretty extensive gameplay demo for everyone to see. And yeah, I'm very excited about it. I'm very excited to tell you all about it, Rosie. So I just want to... There's like a little thing that happened at the start of this demo, which I think sort of gives a sense of just how good this game looks.
Okay.
I was sort of like, as soon as I saw it, like this beautiful... You know, it's set in late 16th century feudal Japan, the Azuchi Momoyama period, if you want to be specific about it. And the first I saw of it was one of the two playable characters, Yasuke, cresting this hill and this view opening up into a settlement down below. And someone in the audience just started applauding, just spontaneously broke out into applause, just at how good the game looks. Because it does look ridiculous. It looks ridiculously good. Just there's something really solid and clean about it. The way the light reflects off everything. I mean, I was just obviously noticing the water a lot. I think the water in Assassin's Creed games is, I always think, up there with the best water graphics you get.
Oh, wow.
And Assassin's Creed Shadows was no different. But anyway, you're not here to listen about the water graphics. You want to hear about the characters and how the game plays.
I don't know. They are sounding pretty good.
It was great. So the main gist of what we were shown was a section of the game which was played for us live, but played twice. Actually, no, 3 times. Once from the perspective of Yasuke, and once from the perspective of Naoe, the two protagonists in Assassin's Creed Shadows. And the third time, they played as Naoe again, but doing a different approach, which I thought was really interesting, because initially when I heard there were 2 protagonists, I was like, okay, so cool. One of them's going to be like the go in through the front gates, sword out, just chopping everyone to bits play style, and the other one's going to be like a stealthy, nimble, traditional assassin style thing. But it's not as simple as that. But the first guy we saw was Yasuke, who interestingly is... And this came as a surprise to me, but he's the first Assassin's Creed protagonist who's based on a real-life historical figure.
Oh, really?
All of the other Assassin's Creed protagonists have all been fictional, despite the fact that they're set in, you know, real-life historical periods. But Yasuke was a real-life historical figure, a real-life samurai from the 16th century. So that's pretty cool. But like his play style is just absolutely brutal. Like he's huge as well, so he's like one of the things he can do is just charge through doors. So there are doors inside like castles you have to take over, where Naoe has to like find a way around. She'd have to scramble over the roofs. Yasuke can just bash the doors down. This is how he plays the game. Like, he's an honourable samurai type, so he's got a samurai sword. He also has an absolutely brutal sort of club-style weapon with spikes on it, which we got to see. And the combat was what really sort of caught my eye. It felt a lot more action-focused, certainly, than the most recent, like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, for instance, which felt like it was leaning more towards those RPG-style elements, like, you know, you'd hit someone and you'd see hit point numbers come up. You know, it was a lot more about sort of the RPG-style growth, I think, in Valhalla, whereas Shadows, certainly from what I've seen, feels very much like it's switching focus, I guess, back to the sort of philosophy we saw maybe from earlier Assassin's Creed games, but with a combat system that feels a lot more, or certainly looks a lot more refined. So there's like the classic sort of dodging, blocking, parrying system going on. But some of the finishers that Yasuke was pulling out were just absolutely brutal. Like just smashing people through doors, beheading people very precisely with his samurai sword. And there's lots of very voyeuristic, slow-mo finisher cams for all of these moves as well. You know, so you'd be surrounded by 2 or 3 enemies, you dodge one, go into a combo, and just Yasuke gets behind him and the sword comes down in slow motion and just slices right through his head. With the blunt sort of like club weapon as well. Like a couple of times he would just down enemies, just bring the club up over their head and bring it down on top of their head, and I can only describe the heads as like, bursting like watermelons. The heads were just no longer there. It was, pretty amazing to watch. So we saw Yasuke sort of, going through this town. There was like a corrupt samurai sort of lording it over the civilians in this town, and everyone was sort of appealing to you to save them and to take out the corrupt samurai. And so you basically do that and take out all of his cronies as well. And then there's like a more sort of established castle that you have to take over, and this is what we saw being played multiple times. So we saw Yasuke going through it, sort of barging through the front door, taking everyone out with his samurai sword, and then we got to see Naoe doing it. And where Yasuke is the first actual real-life historical figure playable as a protagonist, Naoe is officially, according to Ubisoft, the smallest assassin ever. So you've got this giant guy, Yasuke, and then you've got Naoe, who's very agile and nimble, sort of, I guess, what you'd expect from an Assassin's Creed protagonist in terms of her parkour abilities, being able to leap across rooftops. She's got like a grappling hook as well, so she can like climb up buildings really quickly and escape from situations and disappear after she's assassinated someone. Exactly like what you would expect from the original Assassin's Creed games. We do those missions where the whole gist is get in, assassinate your target, and then just disappear.
Yeah, just vanish into the crowds or in the rooftops.
Yeah, it felt very much like that with Naoe, and her combat as well just looked so cool. So she has the ability to vault over enemies, like she's just all over them. It was amazing. Just hidden blade, aerial assassinations, so many really satisfying animations as well. Like one of my favorite things about assassinating people in Assassin's Creed games is all of the cool animations you get for the aerial assassinations and whatnot, and there were loads of those here. There's also the one where you can assassinate people through those, I don't know what the actual term for them is, those sliding doors where people are standing on the other side of them and you can stab them through the door.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Tent shoe style. It was great. But one of the cool things about this was whilst we were playing through this area, there was like a storm rolling in, and they were talking to us a lot about the dynamic weather systems in the game and how you can use those to your advantage depending on which protagonist you choose to play as for whatever mission you're doing. So Naoe, who relies on stealth, can use things like storms to her advantage, or she can wait until it's sort of like sunset, which increases the length of the shadows, so you can have more shadows to hide in. So if you want to do a mission as Naoe, it's best to wait for a specific time of day to give yourself a better chance to be able to hide. If you go in at noon when the sun is high up in the sky, there's very little shadows, everything's really brightly lit, you probably want to wait. But yeah, they were very keen to press home like how impressive their dynamic weather systems are. So these storms just sort of like roll in unscripted and unpredictably and then can pass out again. Also, they have dynamic seasons. So the game will shift between like spring, summer, autumn and winter. Mm-hmm. And from what I understand, that's not tied to the story. Like the game will just progress through the seasons as well, so you can also use that to your advantage when you're planning how to take on missions.
Oh, so it's not like, for example, that just makes me think similarly to the Persona games where you have to sort of advance by a certain point with the time progressing. It's just the story can just progress at your pace, but the seasons just progress themselves, if you know what I mean.
That's what I understood from what they were saying. Yeah, they mentioned, so they showed us the dynamic storm coming in, and then they said, yeah, there's dynamic weather, and then there are dynamically changing seasons as well, which I just thought was really fascinating. So they played the mission again with Naoe, and then they did it again with Naoe, but instead of going stealthily and assassinating from rooftops, they did a more action-oriented approach, just to sort of show you, I think, that, despite the fact that she is small and stealthy, Naoe can still actually fight a whole bunch of enemies if the need calls for it. And her fighting style is just, she's just electric. I honestly cannot wait to play as her. She looks so cool when she's in the middle of like 3 or 4 guys and just absolutely taking them out. The sort of animations on it was so satisfying as well. And I thought it was exciting for me to see Assassin's Creed sort of, I guess, shifting focus away from or towards the combat a lot more. We didn't really get to see much of open world exploration from what we saw in the demo. It was all very much combat focused and in this one town. But it felt like Assassin's Creed, especially when Naoe had assassinated this guy and then was escaping with her grappling hook off the rooftops. She'd in like 5 seconds she'd assassinated a guy and then was 2 or 3 streets away, just nimbly hopping through windows, over rooftops, around corners. It's just,
I
really,
just
really
did that.
cool.
Doopa-doopa-doo, don't mind me.
Very satisfying stuff. Another thing I thought was really interesting was when you were getting quest objectives in the town, they were really keen to point out, the guy from Ubisoft, that the quest objectives are sort of less hand-holdy than you might otherwise expect. So you basically just, you get given a scenario, and it reminded me of Dragon's Dogma 2 quite a bit here. It was like, okay, this is the deal, go and explore and find out some information about this. So it leaves it up to the player to sort of work out what they have to do, which I thought was, quite a change from what we've experienced in Assassin's Creed in the past, where it's very much like, okay, here's your next thing, go here, steal this, kill this person. So I'm interested to see that play out as well. But the main thing I took away from it was, A, how absolutely beautiful it looked, and B, how it really felt like it was returning to, it felt in terms of the combat like the Assassin's Creeds of old, which is just a very interesting direction, I think. And the setting as well, feudal Japan, is just, it's a setting that Assassin's Creed fans have been clamoring for years.
Yeah.
And, the person doing the presentation also said, it's not just the fans that have wanted this game, we've wanted to make this game for years as well. So it definitely feels like something that they have been cooking up for a long time, from even before they were actually physically making this thing.
And Assassin's Creed bundled up with lots of joy from different angles.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a massive fan of sort of like that original wave of Assassin's Creed games. The Ezio trilogy, I think, is my absolute favourite. And in terms of just how it feels to walk around the place, it felt more like that than what we've seen maybe recently in games like Origins and in Valhalla and Odyssey. Yes, I'm very excited about it, Rosie, if you couldn't tell.
You sound excited, and this is sounding right up my street. I've only played like let's say the classic Assassin's Creed game, so the fact that it's kind of going back to that formula, and with the setting and the period it's in, I'm thinking, yes, this is sounding right up my street. And we don't have long to wait, because Assassin's Creed Shadows is coming to PS5 on the 15th of November, so what a lovely little Christmas treat it's going to be for us.
It's going to be a great second half of the year, that's for sure.
It's all stacking up into a whole bundle of goodness, isn't it? But what do you all think of Assassin's Creed Shadows? Let us know in the comments. Please like and subscribe to PlayStation Access if you like this, and stay tuned, because we're going to have so much more content on Assassin's Creed Shadows coming up. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Bye!